The galaxy had grown arrogant. War had become a predictable pattern, a carefully measured dance between fleets and ground forces, where strategies were taught, battles were modeled, and outcomes were forecasted with precise accuracy. The Galactic Council, composed of species who believed they had mastered every conceivable art of war, no longer feared the unknown. They feared nothing. And in their comfort, they forgot the most essential lesson. Not all enemies fight by the same rules. Among them stood a forgotten veteran, his scales dulled by time, his breathing ragged from injuries long since healed in flesh but forever raw in memory. His name was Vec Tran, a decorated commander who had fought in more campaigns than most of the counselors combined. He had survived wars against apex predators, genocidal machines, and hive species that consumed entire solar systems. Yet, despite his victories, there was one battle he never spoke of in detail. One enemy he never dared face again. Humans. The Council summoned Vec to offer counsel on a new campaign. Scouts had discovered an isolated human colony along the edges of contested space. Intelligence labeled the colony as lightly defended, technologically inferior, and strategically unimportant. A perfect target for a swift conquest to send a message to Earth's fragile alliances. The Council wanted to know if there were any hidden dangers. When Vec heard the name of the species, his blood chilled. He told them to abandon the campaign. His words were not suggestions. They were warnings carved from the raw terror of experience. He recounted fragments of the battle that had shattered his fleet and his mind. He spoke of human ships that shouldn't have flown, human soldiers who fought long after they should have fallen, human engineers who turned garbage into weapons capable of toppling armored divisions. He spoke of the laughing, the insane, guttural sound humans made in the heart of battle, a sound that haunted him across centuries. The counselors smirked, their tendrils curling in amusement, their mandibles clicking in disbelief. Humans were minor players, deathworlders perhaps, but primitive by galactic standards. Their fleets were laughable compared to the optimized war engines of the Council's prime species. Their colonies were fragile outposts clinging to barely habitable worlds. They dismissed Vec's stories as relics of a different era, a time when humans were new to space and fought like cornered animals. Now, they reasoned, humans have been absorbed into galactic order, their rough edges sanded down by centuries of trade and diplomacy. Vec's reputation meant nothing against their confidence. He was seen as a relic, a living fossil weighed down by obsolete fears. They didn't understand that some enemies never become safer with time. Some enemies only become more dangerous the more you ignore them. The military leaders charted their assault plans with mechanical efficiency. The human colony was classified as Class 3 in defensive capacity, a joke compared to hardened fortresses the Council regularly besieged. The local planetary defense grid was outdated, their orbital cannons minimal, and their population barely large enough to field a proper militia. The fleet dispatched to seize a colony outnumbered the human forces 20-1. It was deemed a training operation for young commanders to test their tactics against live resistance. Nothing more. Vex sought private audiences with the fleet generals. He detailed the human psychological profile, their disregard for self-preservation, their tendency to escalate conflicts in unpredictable directions, their love for asymmetrical warfare. He told them humans don't just fight battles. They bend the battlefield to their will. They find angles no one else sees. They make weapons from anything, from nothing. He told them about the day his ship was boarded not by precision strike teams, but by humans wielding improvised flamethrowers, magnetic mines strapped at their chests, and tools repurposed into lethal devices with horrifying creativity. The general smiled politely and dismissed his concerns. They believed their numerical and technological superiority would neutralize any irregular human tactics. They believed in overwhelming force, in clean victories. They had forgotten the oldest truth. Humans thrive when the odds are stacked against them. They sharpen their teeth when cornered. The commander prepared their fleet with practiced arrogance. their battle simulations showing near-total success within the first wave. The Council broadcast their impending victory across the sectors, using the campaign as political leverage. They promised their citizens another swift expansion, another trophy world, another reminder that the Council's dominion was absolute within the human colony. Preparations appeared laughable. Their militia trained with ancient rifles. Their defenses were patched with salvaged alien components barely held together by improvised engineering. Their communication networks were decentralized, primitive by galactic standards, making interception difficult but not impossible. Their starships were small, outdated, and few. Council intelligence reported that the colony's leadership consisted of civilian administrators and retired military officers far beyond their prime. There was no indication of active Earth fleet support, no signs of reinforcements. The colony was isolated, vulnerable, easy. Vectren felt the cold weight of inevitability pressing on his chest as the fleet departed. He wasn't called to join the War Council's final meetings. His warnings were a footnote in the campaign's briefing files. He sat alone, the distant stars reflected in his clouded eyes, knowing the young commanders would only understand when it was too late. He remembered the screams across the comm channels during his own battle with humans. He remembered the orders breaking down, the logic of war disintegrating under the humans' relentless chaos. He remembered watching his warship, a marvel of engineering, reduced to floating scrap by enemies wielding repurposed mining equipment. He remembered the fire, the sound of human laughter on every frequency as his fleet collapsed. Vec's mind drifted to the final transmission from that battle, a message that still echoed in his nightmares. You should have left us alone. But the Council hadn't learned. They had forgotten the price of underestimating humans. They saw them as an anomaly, a manageable threat, something that could be controlled. The fleet's departure was celebrated. The commanders boasted of their upcoming conquest. They spoke of seizing the human colony as a warning to Earth, as leverage for future negotiations. The young soldiers aboard the assault ships were eager to prove themselves, eager to crush an enemy they believed had no chance. They would soon understand that humans don't fight for territory. They don't fight for honor. They fight because they refuse to kneel. They fight because they cannot accept subjugation. They fight until there is nothing left, and sometimes they fight even after that. The commanders dismissed the reports of irregular energy spikes in the colony's outer zones. They ignored strange signals from abandoned satellites. They saw the human patrols as disorganized, the traps as crude, the defenses as incomplete. They mistook deliberate misdirection for incompetence. The fleet arrived in orbit with flawless precision, expecting minimal resistance. They began their standard assault patterns, targeting the colony's perimeter defenses. The initial bombardments met only token opposition. Surface-level railguns fired sporadically, clearly outdated and poorly coordinated. The alien commanders declared the first phase a success, convinced the human defenders would soon capitulate. They underestimated what came next. As ground forces landed, they encountered strange delays. Landing zones were cleared, but their approach paths were lined with abandoned equipment, cargo containers, and mining tools haphazardly strewn across the terrain. Scouts dismissed these as signs of disorganized retreat, unaware that every placement served a calculated purpose. The first casualties didn't come from direct firefights, but from equipment sabotaged to explode upon activation. Unmarked crates detonated, severing command relays and supply routes. Fuel lines were rigged with primitive ignition traps that triggered chain reactions. The aliens called these incidents anomalies, isolated events not worthy of altering the battle plan. Within hours, patrol units disappeared. Communication disruption spread. The humans didn't fight like organized armies. They moved like shadows, striking from impossible angles, using the aliens' own terrain analysis against them. The first confirmed ambush shattered an entire armor column using improvised explosives created from refitted mining charges. Human fighters emerged from ventilation shafts, sewer systems, and underground tunnels that alien intelligence had dismissed as irrelevant. The alien commanders ordered aggressive sweeps through the colony's industrial sectors. Their forces advanced with armored walkers and heavy artillery, expecting to crush resistance through overwhelming firepower. They were not prepared for human sabotage on a planetary scale. Entire buildings collapsed at the detonation of hidden charges, burying alien regiments beneath tons of debris. Power grids were hijacked and rerouted, sending lethal overloads to the invaders' equipment. Water systems were poisoned with chemical agents that incapacitated soldiers on contact. Every street, every corridor, every pipeline became a weapon in human hands. The aliens attempted to deploy advanced scanning equipment to locate human positions. Within minutes, those systems began to fail, corrupted by constant signal interference. Humans had weaponized their communication infrastructure, flooding alien channels with disorienting noise, false orders, and sound loops that created chaos within the invaders' command structure. Battle groups received conflicting directives, leading them into friendly fire incidents and fatal exposure points. The humans controlled not just the physical battlefield, but the flow of information itself. The humans escalated their psychological warfare. Captured alien soldiers were released with misinformation, deliberately misled into believing the humans had developed weapons capable of planetary annihilation. These lies spread quickly among the invaders, eroding morale. Messages intercepted from alien field officers revealed growing paranoia. They began to question each other's orders, suspecting sabotage from within their own ranks. The human defenders exploited this instability, fabricating intercepted transmissions that further fractured the alien chain of command. As alien forces attempted to consolidate, they discovered that their supply convoys had been systematically dismantled. Human raiding parties struck with brutal efficiency, destroying fuel depots, ammunition caches, and medical stations. The aliens found themselves stranded, their vehicles disabled, their weapons starved of power, their emergency beacons reprogrammed to broadcast false locations. A campaign that should have ended in swift victory devolved into a desperate struggle for survival. The alien commanders dispatched elite hunter units to track down human resistance cells. These units were skilled, armed with cutting-edge weaponry, and backed by aerial reconnaissance. They never returned. Human counter-tactics nullified technological advantages with unrelenting creativity. Heat signatures were masked with chemical dispersants. Motion sensors were overwhelmed with decoys. Biological scanners were rendered useless by releasing thousands of domesticated animals to flood detection grids. The aliens realized too late that they were fighting opponents who didn't need superior equipment to win. They needed only time, patience, and a deep understanding of their own desperation. Human attacks intensified with coordinated precision. Alien ships in orbit came under fire from planetary defense cannons that had appeared in locations previously cleared. Somehow, the humans had relocated and reassembled their defenses under the cover of misdirection. The aliens scrambled to neutralize these new threats, but their targeting algorithms had been compromised. Human code buried within intercepted software patches caused their weapon systems to lock onto friendly units, triggering catastrophic losses. Alien commanders attempted to evacuate key personnel. Drop zones became death traps. Human snipers, using modified industrial equipment, fired projectiles capable of puncturing landing craft. When the aliens rerouted extraction efforts to less contested areas, they found their own transports destroyed by human-controlled drone swarms. Machines never designed for combat, now repurposed into agile weapons platforms capable of disabling critical ship components in flight. As alien forces faltered, they attempted to fortify key structures, erecting defensive perimeters with automated turrets and deployable energy shields. Human saboteurs breached these positions by exploiting overlooked vulnerabilities, overheating power nodes, supply conduits left unguarded, exhaust ports rerouted by seemingly trivial infrastructure adjustments. No position was safe. No defense remained unchallenged. Humans didn't just fight battles, they redefined the shape of the battlefield itself. Reports from surviving units painted a grim picture. Human fighters demonstrated an unparalleled willingness to sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage. One alien commander recounted a human detonating an explosive device strapped to their body, collapsing an entire building to eliminate an armored division. Another report described human teams using their wounded as lures to bait alien medics into fatal ambushes. Every human casualty seemed to feed their resolve rather than diminish it. Alien leadership called for orbital support, requesting saturation strikes to level entire city sectors. The response was silence. Orbital relays had been jammed. Human forces had infiltrated planetary uplinks, severing the fleet's connection to ground units. Isolated and directionless, alien soldiers devolved into fragmented pockets of resistance, hunted relentlessly by human squads who moved with terrifying speed and precision. Alien officers attempted to regroup at designated fallback points. Each location was compromised. The humans had predicted their retreat patterns, laying elaborate traps that funneled fleeing units into prearranged kill zones. Explosives hidden beneath infrastructure detonated in sequence, collapsing roads and overpasses, trapping convoys in choke points where human fighters emerged from concealed positions and decimated what remains. The surviving alien commanders fled the human colony in fragmented convoys, their remaining ships crippled, their chain of command shattered. They believed retreat would offer safety, distance would grant reprieve, and the humans would remain within their planetary borders. They misunderstood the depth of human response. The humans did not wait. Within days, they seized abandoned alien equipment, decoded surviving enemy transmissions, and mapped the positions of the fleeing fleet. The humans began pursuit, not with superior technology or fleet strength, but with terrifying speed and adaptability. They repurposed the wreckage of alien transports, reverse-engineered propulsion systems, and built strike vessels from salvage yards in record time. Their engineers worked without rest. Their soldiers volunteered for missions with survival rates too low for most species to consider. The humans' resolve did not waver. It sharpened. The first alien outpost to fall was a supply station thought to be beyond the humans' operational range. The attack was surgical, executed with weapons the humans had assembled from scavenged enemy parts. By the time reinforcements arrived, the station was in flames, its command systems overwritten, its logs erased, its garrison either dead or scattered. Alien analysts began to piece together the pattern. The humans were not just defending, they were prosecuting a campaign of vengeance. Each target they struck was not random. They followed the precise withdrawal paths of the original invasion force. Human vessels soon appeared in neighboring systems, outpacing the Council's predicted recovery time. The humans displayed an uncanny ability to bypass sensor networks, emerging within critical strike distances before alarms could be raised. They moved with brutal efficiency, exploiting weaknesses the aliens had not considered vulnerabilities. Human teams hacked security protocols in minutes, disabled orbital defenses from within, and turned the aliens' own logistics infrastructure against them. The humans escalated with each engagement. They began weaponizing environmental hazards on a system-wide scale. They detonated asteroids within trade routes, collapsing critical supply lanes. They lured alien patrols into debris fields seeded with magnetic mines that the humans had adapted from industrial salvage. Their strikes destabilized trade corridors, spread panic across regional command centers, and forced the alien leadership to divert vast resources to defending what had once been considered secure space. Alien commanders attempted to regroup at a fortified station deep within Council territory. Human operatives reached it first. They infiltrated under the cover of merchant traffic, using falsified identification protocols obtained from previous raids. Within hours, the station's core systems were under human control. The humans disabled life support functions in specific sectors, forced localized decompressions, and executed precision strikes that left the station crippled. The remaining alien forces abandoned the facility in chaos. The humans did not pause. They identified the Council's weapon manufacturing hubs and initiated sabotage operations that caused entire production lines to fail catastrophically. Human teams weaponized maintenance drones, causing them to malfunction in patterns that destroyed assembly units from within. Alien engineers struggled to repair the damage as cascading system failures spread throughout multiple facilities. The humans were not merely attacking physical targets. They were dismantling the capacity to wage war. In response, the Council deployed its most advanced fleet to intercept the human forces. They committed thousands of ships, elite crews, and the best strategists from multiple species. They believed the humans would engage in conventional battle. The humans did not. Instead, they scattered into small, fast strike groups, each with independent command, capable of making tactical decisions without external oversight. They struck from unexpected vectors, coordinated through decentralized communication channels that the Council could not trace or disrupt. Alien attempts to centralize their defenses failed as human interference crippled their relay networks. The humans used the Council's own traffic control grids to generate false fleet movements, redirecting reinforcements into empty systems, while human forces annihilated undefended targets elsewhere. Alien admirals realized that the humans had mapped not just their ships, but their entire logistical doctrine, and were systematically dismantling the framework that sustained their war effort. The human psychological warfare intensified. They broadcast intercepted messages layered with human laughter and distorted signals that mimicked the voices of fallen alien commanders. These transmissions spread fear through alien ranks, leading to mass desertions and reports of phantom human vessels in systems untouched by actual human presence. Alien officers began abandoning their posts, convinced that no sector was truly safe. Human propaganda infiltrated the civilian communication networks of the Council, sowing widespread panic that destabilized entire regions without a single human soldier setting foot there. The humans adapted captured alien ships, modifying them to outmaneuver and outgun their original designs. They developed hybrid vessels, integrating salvaged alien technology with human innovations that emphasized speed, stealth, and aggressive firepower. Alien fleets found themselves outflanked by ships they had designed, now operated by human crews who exploited every weakness with surgical precision. Alien leaders attempted to deploy their most devastating weapons, orbital platforms capable of sterilizing planetary surfaces. The humans anticipated this escalation. They launched coordinated strikes that targeted the power cores of these platforms before they could become operational. In one engagement, a human strike team infiltrated the station via maintenance conduits, overrode the targeting systems, and redirected the platform's firing sequence into the fleet that had deployed it. Alien witnesses reported seeing entire formations annihilated by their own superweapons before the station self-destructed under human control. Human ground operations expanded to targeted raids on alien shipyards, research facilities, and high-command installations. Each assault was swift, merciless, and left no usable infrastructure behind. Human units demonstrated a consistent pattern. They never sought to occupy territory, only to destroy it, ensuring it could not be used against them in the future. The humans moved like fire, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. Alien attempts at negotiation were intercepted, their diplomatic channels flooded with silence. The humans sent no formal response, only fragmented messages replaying the original invasion orders issued by the Council, a cold reminder of who initiated the conflict. The human silence spoke volumes. They were not interested in terms. They were interested in conclusion. the humans began to manipulate stellar infrastructure. In one system, they destabilized a network of orbital stations that maintained gravitational control over asteroid belts, triggering a cascade of collisions that obliterated entire shipping routes. In another, they sabotaged stellar reflectors that regulated planetary climates, initiating environmental collapses that forced alien populations to evacuate critical colonies.